One book can change everything. Discover revelations that spark courage, ignite dreams, and remind you who you truly are. From timeless classics to bold new voices, find your next inspiration in every page of Dr. Segun Olugbemi's books, such as Lessons from 30 Years of Marriage. Marriage is much more than a social contract. It is an institution established by God Himself. The man was never created to live in isolation, independent, alone, or all self-sufficient by himself. For two are better than one because they have a better reward for their labor. Red flags. Deception turns rulers into subjects and makes the wise foolish. It is the reason behind every failure, loss, pain, or regret. The life coach. The lessons we learn in life are: precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line upon line, here a little, there a little. Wisdom is loaded in all of creation. Therefore, the responsibility of discovery is on you. Defeating the mother frog syndrome. Mother frog syndrome is symptomatic of a lifestyle that is comfortable with whatever life throws at it. A man with great dreams who is unwilling to do anything about it. It is a reactionary life rather than an active one. A life that responds rather than initiates. Without conquest, there can be no victory. Without reaching, there is no getting. This is an apt description of what today's church looks like. This book teaches you how to kill these lethargic and apathetic lives. Mercy Extended. The vision that has led to this timely exposition on the rising new Church of Jesus Christ is clearly detailed in this book. It distinguishes between the Solomon Church and the Davidic Church, the significance of the donkey upon which no man ever sat on the occasion of the triumphant entry, vis-a-vis the present-day reformers in the rising church who have an understanding that Jesus Christ is either Lord of all or not at all. Prophetic confrontation. Prophecies are divine and accurate foretelling of the future to an individual, group, or nation by God. However, the recipient of prophecy has a key role to play in seeing it come to pass as foretold and benefiting from it, since most prophecies are conditions. Silent years. The silent years are the years we spend without being noticed. They are years of thorough preparation of a vessel by the Master Himself for His unique use. In this jet age of fast food, fast information, online church, online Bibles, and fast Christianity, many Christians, leaders inclusive, do not see the need to truly wait on God as in the days of Elijah. Obadiah Commission. There is a reason the word independence is not used in any translation of the Bible. One of the reasons is that God never meant for us to independent of Him or one another. We are to be dependent on God and interdependent on one another. Lessons from the Patriarchs, Volume 1 and 2. Every information in the Bible has a message for us. We sure can learn from the names, places, numbers, people, principles, and instructions therein. You can order all these books and more on Amazon or call +2 34805 116 6211.
Hello there, good evening, and thank you for joining us again on the Moment of Transformation. It's been an amazing, about 6, 8, or 10 weeks now that we have been on a journey, about 9 weeks or thereabout. We've had about 9 episodes of this particular series, A New Dawn. 67 contrasts between the Old and New Testaments. It's been awesome. I've had a blast teaching this. Why? Because number one, as an itinerant minister, I traveled quite a bit around the globe and in this country. And when you visit these places, at most you have 3, 4 sessions or thereabout, and before you are off. And you are not able to do justice to any particular title that you are on. And so this series gives me opportunity, or this broadcast gives me opportunity to do a series for as long as is necessary to do justice to it. Number 2, you have areas where you really want to cover that you can't do during church preaching. But when you're teaching that, through, this means then you have your time, you take time, you examine this. So I would really encourage you to go back and see previous episodes that we have taught. I think we've had about 9 or so episodes. And you need to go to our YouTube channel, subscribe to it, and then click on notification button, so as soon as we drop one, you can see that. And then you see the playlist there. There you're going to see the series of Moment of Transformation, where we are doing these 67 contrasts between the Old and New Testaments. You can also check our Facebook and just scroll down my Facebook page. You're going to see previous episodes, so you can enjoy that. Just go to the video go down, go to the video, select the video, and you will see all of them line up there. So you're going to look, come with us. Let's learn. Let's study the scriptures. It may not be as exhaustive as I really want it, because we're going to 67. But right now we're on 17. The number 17 contrast between the Old and the New Testament. Number 17, the Old was a sinful ministry administered by a sinful mediator. But the New was a sinless ministry by a sinless mediator. Hebrews chapter 5, verses 1 to 7. For every high priest taken from among men is appointed for men in things pertaining to God. That was after the old order, that he may offer both gifts and sacrifices for sin. He can have compassion on those who are ignorant and going astray, since he himself, primarily, or first and foremost, since he himself is also subject to weakness. Because of this, he is required, as for the people, so also for himself, to offer sacrifices for sins. And no man takes this honor to himself, but he who is called by God, just as Aaron was. So this passage, the passage above, describes the role and qualifications of a high priest, highlighting that they are selected first from among men. They are taken from among men. In other words, a high priest, after the old order, has to be a man. Has to be a man, not an angel, not Jesus. Has to be a man. If he's a man, he is sinful as the people. Then he has to be ordained for the people in matters pertaining to God. So his job is to more or less intercede, stand in between the people and God, help offer sacrifices. Do you get that? So first is a man. Second, is ordained by another man into that office to stand for people, to offer, to speak to God on behalf of men. Okay? And then also, it's also the first thing, and the next thing he does is able to offer gifts and sacrifices for sins. So that is his duty. Is a man, he is ordained to occupy that position. Then he offers gifts and sacrifices for sins. And then that he is able to do with compassion. Why? Because he himself is a man, or was a man who understood. If a man had gotten into something wrong, into adultery, into lies, into cheating, in touching the dead, into ceremonially unclean or spiritually unclean, religiously unclean, he can understand. Aaron lost 2 of his children and he was not permitted to cry. And he had to perform the role of a high priest, so he couldn't even see them, he couldn't talk them. So, because of that, he's a man ordained into a position for men to speak to God on behalf of men. At the same time, he has to come with sacrifices and gifts to be able to help the people. But he's able to do it effectively because he was also a man. And he had to go through the pains. He also fought the same temptation. And that no one can take this honor to himself. In fact, he has to offer for himself first. He had to go in and more or less appeal to God and repent of his own sins and, offer sacrifices for himself first. Meeting with requirements now to stand before God on behalf of the people. In fact, God had to give the order by which Aaron and his children, the Levitical priesthood, God had to give the order and specification, stipulated the specifics as to how these people can come into that office. Sacrifice his blood, it will touch their ears, which is their hearing, and to be sensitive to spiritual things, he will touch different parts, he will do things, he will wave and all those stuff. All that were done to be able to put them into that office. And it's not something they could do by themselves. Somebody had to ordain them into it. They couldn't take the honor to themselves. And I will explain that a little further. Galatians chapter 3 verse 9 says, so then, those who are of faith are blessed with Abraham, the believer. This verse emphasizes the blessings, that blessings are extended to all who have faith, just as they were to Abraham, regardless of their background or adherence to the law. So let's look at some important things that are communicated in this verse 9. Now, we've seen in the case of where we read how that the man who will be high priest had to come from among men. Therefore, he is a sinful man mediating for fellow sinful men through sacrifices that could not save. But now we are seeing here also in Galatians how that we have a foundation of faith. And Paul's argument in Galatians chapter 3 verses 6 to 9 centers around the faith that was credited to Abraham as righteousness, not his adherence to the law. You have to remember that Abraham was not even under the law at this time. And because he was not under the law, you could never have done anything to be pure before the law. He was under the dispensation of conscience. You get that? I did explain it in previous episodes. There have been 3 dispensations by which God had dealt with man. The first was dispensation of conscience, which spanned all through to the time we will come into Moses. And then from Moses, God gave the law. And the law was now given to a people called the Jewish people. And it was the Israelites of those days, not the current Jews anyway, not the current Israel now. I doubt if there's any original one of them, but okay, we all have intermarried, everything has happened. But the original Jews were given this law. All the laws of Moses were handed over to them and not to the Gentiles. So Abraham was actually under the dispensation of conscience, not the law. Isaac and Jacob, same thing, not the law. Moses was the one that brought in the law. So every other person outside who were called Gentiles were never under the law. All through till Jesus will come. And now Jesus will come again, and then we see some other persons, you see Jesus, law came by Moses, grace and truth coming by Jesus Christ. He has appeared unto all men now. So in Galatians 3, we are told that God, by the coming of Christ, condemned all under sin, concluded all under sin, both under the disposition of the law and the disposition of conscience, who didn't walk by conscience nor the law. Then he concluded all under sin, that he might have mercy on all, so that grace can now be effective. So Abraham is presented as a model of faith, and those who follow in his footsteps are called, are blessed as Abraham. Remember that this was before the advent of the law. Therefore, he believed God, setting out to go to a land he never knew, to an unknown destination. That act alone was counted as righteousness, right standing with God. He said Abraham believed God, and it was counted unto him for righteousness. It also speaks about universal blessing. So the verse highlights that God's blessing is not limited to a specific group or nation, but is available to all who believe worldwide. In other words, if you can believe the Lord, if you trust God's word, if you stand in and you come in through Christ, it belongs to you, not to the Jews anymore. It belongs to all. He came unto his own, John 1:12. His own received him not, but to as many as received him, to them gave him power to become the sons of God. All right? Even to them that call upon his name. So the passage contrasts the idea of being blessed through works, or the works of the law, with being blessed through faith, emphasizing that salvation and blessings come through faith in God, not through legality.